Hi folks, MLA Todd Loewen here, and today I'd like to discuss an issue that has become deeply divisive. In recent days, I have been contacted by many people, including healthcare professionals and other employees, regarding mandatory vaccination and vaccine passports. You may have also seen my colleague Angela Pitt's statement on vaccine passports and discrimination. She has vowed to press her UCP caucus to take legal steps to prevent this personal, private health information from becoming necessary to access services, goods, or maintain employment. Like Angela, I don't believe vaccine passports are the answer. But more than that, given the severity of this issue, I think it's time to have an equally serious and nuanced discussion. When people come to me about this, they are scared. They fear for the loss of their livelihoods. They are uncomfortable with these abrupt changes. I think many feel this anxiety because they know important lines are being crossed. Furthermore, a complete absence of political leadership has left many feeling adrift. Privacy rights are a necessary condition for all others. In Alberta, we have historically taken the safeguarding of personal information, in particular health information, very seriously. We have the Health Information Act, the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and the Personal Information Protection Act, all of which I have here with me. These acts govern how different entities, from the health system to public bodies to private organizations, can and cannot collect, use, and distribute your information. In the only significant statement that Premier Kenney has made on this issue, delivered nearly 2 months ago at the Calgary Stampede, he said that the Alberta government would not facilitate or accept vaccine passports. He went on to say that such schemes would violate the principles of health information and privacy law. In the weeks since, the UCP government has tried to oversimplify this issue to the point of absurdity, taking a completely hands-off approach, up to and including the assumption that even publicly funded organizations can deny services to Albertans. At the absolute best, we are in a murky, ambiguous legal gray area. At worst, we are about to enter a minefield of problems, unresolved issues, fights, divisions, destroyed livelihoods, and precedent-shattering policy. I would even go as far as to suggest that the core of this matter is not even the vaccines themselves, but rather the way in which these decisions affect the foundations of our free society and the way we handle privacy rights and discrimination. There are many unanswered questions that spill out of this Pandora's box. Questions like, is there a clear legal authority for businesses and public entities to require vaccine status under current legislation? This seems highly debatable. Is consent based on the denial of services truly consent? Is it appropriate, legal, or ethical that one should be coerced or giving consent, particularly when it comes to public bodies that have monopolies on the services they offer? Is the employee of a business, perhaps a restaurant server or a person assigned to screen customers at the door, the appropriate person to be collecting sensitive health information? Are they aware of their personal liabilities and obligations under privacy legislation? Are organizations sure that they meet all the legal criteria under these acts? Do they have the necessary internal policies and safeguards in place? Is COVID vaccination the only acceptable reason to ask for personal health information? Or does this open the door to asking for a clean bill of health for other diseases or proof of other treatments? Let's further consider the issue of exemptions. There are perfectly valid reasons why one might not be able to take the vaccine. Our customers or employees or job applicants required not only to disclose their vaccine status, but also any potentially protected grounds under the Alberta Human Rights Act. Does this open the door to human rights complaints or wrongful dismissal lawsuits? Is it appropriate for, say, a pregnant woman or a cancer patient to have to disclose these things in a job interview? And could that applicant be sure that they are not being discriminated against on those grounds? And finally, how is it that if vaccines equal freedom, as promised, AHS employees now have fewer freedoms than before the vaccines existed and face the prospect of being fired? There are so many more messy questions to be resolved. We haven't even discussed labor issues or the objections that several unions have had to these mandates. But ultimately, we are suffering from a crisis of leadership. The government has decided to leave us in a quagmire caused by its own inability to speak or act decisively. They have left Albertans, many of whom may be unemployed and without income, to launch expensive legal challenges to sort this all out. In that same interview where Jason Kenney claimed he would not facilitate vaccine passports as they contravened privacy legislation, He also said he would use the powers of the Alberta government to oppose Justin Trudeau if he tried to impose these mandates on Albertans. It's interesting then that he won't even use the powers of the Alberta government to stop these intrusions and mandates when they are coming from entities directly under the mandate of the provincial government, entities like AHS. What this boils down to is not a debate around vaccines or partisan politics or the left versus the right. What we are facing now is a question of what limits must be in place to preserve the values of Alberta and core liberties that make us who we are. This is an issue that could define and redefine decades of precedents and force us to reconsider what privacy and human rights legislation mean. This is not an issue to be resolved with platitudes or shallow talking points or by hoping it will all blow over, but rather one that requires true leadership, something we are lacking. On that note, if you need to know what to do next, I'd ask you to contact your local MLA and demand that they show this leadership by answering these difficult questions. Ask if they have read through the relevant legislation. Ask what they personally believe this means for labor rights, privacy rights, and human rights. Ask them what you should do if you or somebody you care about is facing termination. Ask them where the line is, because this matters. Thank you.